Yeah, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Oh, yes, we are indeed live. So now, welcome to the Asian Comms Network. And we are super lucky to have with us Az Ahmed. Now, before I go into Az Ahmed's background, who he is, and why he's joined, and understand a bit more about his journey, I want to ask about your name. Now, is that a name on your birth certificate?
No, no, it's not. Um, that
Story.
is no, that's the product of being Asian, moving to a Western country, and then people butchering your name. That's exactly what happened. So my full name is Arsalan, and when I moved here, nobody could say Arsalan, and then they shortened it to Aslan from the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe series. And I corrected them a few times, and then Aslan just stuck, and then Aslan became Az, and that's where it came from.
It's an amazing book, The Lion, the Witch, and the
Oh,
Wardrobe.
it's great.
And,
Love it.
Aslan's a pretty
It
cool
is.
character to
I
look
keep, I
after.
keep saying to people, I'm not a mythical godlike creature, so but it's just stuck. So-
Now, so you were born in Karachi, is that correct?
no, I was born in Kuwait in the Middle East.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, yeah.
Okay,
So
tell us about all of that.
my dad and my family. They were living in Kuwait at the time. I
Yeah.
was born there, and then we moved around the Middle East. So I've lived in Kuwait, Dubai, Qatar, and then we moved back to Pakistan, and then I moved
Wow.
to the UK in 2006 to do my master's degree. So
That's amazing. And as having lived in so many countries at quite a young age, because your father
yeah,
was traveling, so you traveled
yeah.
with him, do you think it gave you any strengths that you can apply to your career? And also, were there any downsides? Because not everything is rosy, right?
Yeah, of course. So I think if I start with the strengths, the you can literally pick me up and put me in a room of 200 people and I'll find some commonality with people. I just get on with them because of that ability of having moved so often. I had to leave one country and one group of friends and one school, move to another school, make new friends, and then leave, make new friends, make new friends. And so it's given me that ability to just find empathy and be able to just engage and with multiple different types of people. And I think that's one of the strengths it's given me. The downside to that is the fact of moving so often. It doesn't give you that sense of stability, and so there's always this, like, I don't know, it might be a subconscious need or unconscious need of having to change every 2 3 years, because that's what happened in my childhood. But yeah, so there, like you said, there are positives and negatives of everything.
Now, as a little bit about you, I'm going to share with our audience. We've got Shin here just saying hi. Big hello back, my
Hi,
dear.
Shane.
Isn't she marvelous? Now, so you grew up in the Middle East before moving to the UK in 2006. You have over 18 years of experience in marketing. That's a long time. You've worked for various companies and across different industries, and you founded your own marketing agency. So we
Yeah,
want to hear more about this entrepreneurial journey that you've embarked on recently.
yeah,
And your marketing agency is called MGHL Marketing. And
yes,
you focus on helping businesses with South Asian founders to grow,
yeah,
acquire more customers, and increase their revenue. And your work encompasses a bit of brand strategy, digital marketing, including
yeah.
paid media and social advertising, SEO, and web design. So the first question I want to ask you is MGHL. What does that stand for?
So it stands for Mughal. So I just took the vowels out of Mughal because
Mm.
that's also my logo is a Mughal warrior on horseback.
Oh,
Because to me, that the Mughal Empire, for all its faults, if we can park the faults for a second, but it was a time when people that looked like us, we basically ruled the world. And it would be lovely to get back to a time when we have influence and we can direct and we can change and do all these things. So that was the idea behind it. And so I wanted to use my business to help founders who are from South Asian countries to grow and have that sort of influence again. And also maybe in a way to tell the world that, oh, South Asian founders, we don't do just one thing. We are a diverse group of entrepreneurs who run things from, AI startups to, fast food companies to, I don't know, car rental companies to fashion houses. We run everything. So that was the idea of setting it up. And the mission is to kind of promote Asian voices
Mm,
and help Asian businesses grow, because I think some of the more, the more established businesses, they're fine, but a lot of businesses, they might feel that, digital marketing is passing them by. They might feel that, oh, they don't understand things like, paid media advertising, and they don't understand how to grow in a digital world. So that's where I come in. I'm that bridge to kind of help them and say, you need to be online. Whatever your business is, you need to be
mm.
online. You need to have a presence and find customers that way.
As why do you think people are a little bit apprehensive about embracing digital marketing? Have you noticed that you have to slightly bring people along with you in the journey? Founders, is it a generational thing?
I don't know if it's a generational thing. I might just be like a thing where people are just used to a certain way. They think, oh, people would always come into my shop or my business and I didn't really need to do anything, or I could just pick up the phone and have 15 orders. But now you're like, if you're not online, if you don't have a digital presence, you just won't get that sort of reach. And a lot of the time, it's competition will just pass you by. People who are your competitors will be embracing new channels, new methods of promoting themselves, and they will just pass you by. So a lot of the time, I start with any business by kind of understanding who they are and what
Yeah.
makes them different, and that's a big challenge in itself. So, kind of saying to a business, what makes you different, and people, they don't know the answer to that. So that's stage one, and then saying, who's your target audience, and a lot of times they don't even know that. So it's then understanding that, understanding who they appeal to, who their target audience is, and how best to reach them. So these are the steps I take people through. And yeah, it's just showing them that fear of missing out kind of thing as well, and being taken over by competitors who would be doing things better. So it's to help them in that.
That's so good. It's interesting what you say when you work with organizations to try and figure out what's their sort of USP, what are they good at, why do people come to them? And whether
Mhm.
it's an organization, a brand, or an individual, we always struggle to have that self-awareness to sort of understand actually, what is good about us,
Mhm.
and therefore who should we be working with. And even on it's and if we talk about an individual level, why do you think that's the case? Why do you think we always need the outsider to come in and help us with that journey? Why are we so blind to our own positioning?
I think a lot of times it's because people, they've got blinders on because they've always done things a certain way, and so they can't really see the wider picture. And you need an outsider to come and say, "Oh, this is really interesting. Have you thought about this?" So an example was, I was once working with like a food delivery company, an
Mm,
Asian food delivery company, and they were really struggling. And I said to them, I said, "What makes you different?" And they couldn't answer it. And then through different discussions and meetings with them, it turned out that they'd based their first recipes on their grandmother's recipe book that their
mm,
grandmother had brought in from a different country. She'd immigrated with this recipe book, and it was like her prized possession. And then the grandmother handed it down to the daughter, who then handed it down to her daughter. And then, they started this business. And I said, that's your story. But she just thought, oh, I just got these recipes from
mm.
my grandmother. She couldn't see that bigger picture. And so really getting to that, the crux of that story was, it took a while. It took a while to get to, but that was what made her different. That's what made her business different. And then we came up with a whole marketing strategy and a branding strategy around that that part of it. And you tapped into the traditional element of it and things. So it's sometimes people just, they're so used to doing things a certain way and seeing themselves in a certain light. You need somebody to come to you sometimes and say, oh, you're actually really good at this. And people, obviously, they think a certain way of themselves, and sometimes you just need somebody, an outsider, to come and say, you're actually pretty good at this. Yeah.
That's so interesting. We have a comment from Harsha. So she agrees, indeed, being blind to one's own positioning is a
Mm,
real challenge. And that is
yeah.
so true, Harsha, whether it's us as individuals, us as brands, as organizations. And, sometimes I sort of talk with my friends and I say, sometimes it's quite good to do a little exercise. You ask your friends and
Yeah.
family to kind of like tell, to tell you what do they think you're good at. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's so surprising to
I
what you
know.
think you're good at, and you're like, really?
Yeah,
I think, when we have these focus groups, we bring in marketing, for teams such as yourself. Sometimes on an individual basis, actually, it's quite good to kind of, have those check-ins with a trusted group of
yeah.
people to be your own sort of your focus group. And Advita often talks about having like, creating your own board, and
Mm,
that is and that is of people who know you. Sometimes
yeah.
people see sides of you that you don't even see of yourself. So that's really
So
interesting.
true. I think sorry,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say as well, like imposter syndrome is a huge thing. I don't know if
Yeah.
it's bigger in our community, but imposter syndrome is so big. And a lot of times people are like, "Ooh, I can't do that." And you go, "You just did," or "You just did that thing that you don't think you can do." And sometimes it takes an outside perspective to say
Mm.
to them that, "Oh, you just did that thing," and kind of big them up a bit and say, "No, you
Yeah.
can do this." Where people don't think they can do things themselves. And yeah, I suffered from imposter syndrome for years, and I still do to a certain extent. But yeah, you sometimes need somebody else to tell you, "Oh, you're actually really good at that."
Do you think actually having a bit of imposter syndrome, the silver lining is that it makes you strive more, makes you do the extra bit of work because that insecurity drives you to
Yes.
get the work to that level rather than, you know?
Yeah, I think
You
yeah,
think
you're
so?
absolutely right, and it can help with feelings of arrogance as well. If you think you know it all, then somebody's going to pick holes in your strategy or something you've done or your proposal, and then you get defensive, and that's not a good place to be. So yeah, it's always about like just being a bit humble and learning. So always on a lifelong learning journey. So
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the Asian Comms Network. So how
Mhm.
did you first hear about us?
Genuinely through a Google search. So I just because I was looking to be part of an organization, or because my whole thing is building community, right? So we're all a community. We're like a big village, but it's building that community, and I wanted to find organizations that I could be part of. And I just Googled, Asian marketing, and you guys came up. So your SEO is working pretty well.
Wow, well, that's thanks to Advita. She looks after the
That's
website.
great.
Um, and what made you want to get involved? Was it just you wanted to look for other people, such as yourself, that you can have conversations with? Was it the community aspect that was of interest?
Yeah, a lot of it is the community aspect, but what I did find was because I live in Brighton, Brighton it doesn't have a huge Asian population, so any sort of networking or like community organization that I would go to or be part of, I wouldn't
Yeah,
see anybody that looked like me, right? So it's to me, it's that sort of familiarity, people who understand me, what I'm trying to do, and just grow that network out. And so that was one of the reasons. Even though there's nothing wrong with those sorts of organizations, I think
yeah,
sometimes it's good to be part of an organization where people are like you, and I think we kind of gravitate towards people that look like us anyway. So
yeah,
it's yeah,
yeah.
that was one of the reasons.
Yeah, I think, on some level, quite a few of us are quite tribal. And somebody
Mm,
once said to me something really interesting because I said, "Why is it? Why is it that we're
mm,
tribal?" And they said, "Well, actually, if you look at sort of evolutionary history, when
yeah.
you saw someone that looked differently from you, it's usually because they were invading your village."
Yes, it's that
So,
fear
yeah,
element. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so that kind of makes sense why perhaps some people have this instinctive, lower their defenses when they're
Mm,
around people who look like them.
yeah.
So I thought that was quite an interesting point.
I
Now I
think
wanted to,
I
yeah,
was sorry. I was just going to say as well. Like that was another reason for setting up my agency, was because I had this feeling that a lot of time Asian founders would need marketing services. They would get on a call with a marketing agency, and they would see somebody who didn't look like them. They would see somebody who was
yeah,
white mostly, and a lot of the times I would say, do they really understand them
mm,
as a person? And so that was again like if a client of mine or a prospect gets on a call with me, they'll see somebody who looks like them. So
yeah.
it's just and that was kind of the other reason as well.
And so, having worked with British Asian founders, do you think there's something unique about entrepreneurs in our community that's different than other entrepreneurs? Is there something
I
that uniquely shapes the entrepreneurs from the British Asian community?
I think we there's a big sense of family, community, belonging, that sense of trust. So it's, I think that plays a big part of it. And I think we're also very entrepreneurial. We also have this, like, a lot of time there's a big element of we want to do well for our community, and what we offer should be good, right? It should be well done. It should be of high quality. So those are just some of the things that I've noticed. And I think it's phenomenal just how many businesses there are that have Asian founders, and they're offering such interesting things to a wide
Mhm.
community. But I think, yeah, that sense of community and offering something good to your community and like people is something that really stood out to me.
That's so interesting. Now, I wanted to just pull the thread of why you decided to set up. Your company's been running for what, about 9 months?
Yeah, 8, 9 months. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so
Fairly new.
okay, give us the why. Why did you set up?
Sure. So, my corporate career, like you says, I've been in a corporate career of 18 years. Quite strangely, I would move jobs every 2 3 years, and a lot of that was being made redundant. So the companies would just fall apart, or they would get rid of an entire division, and I'd be part of that cull. And it happened to me four or five times, and I was sick and tired of being made redundant. And I thought to myself, I said, the next time I get made redundant, I'm setting up my own thing, because from my point of view, there was no stability in a corporate career. I could be made redundant tomorrow, and I have no security. And I said, why not listen to myself and, fall back on my own skills and knowledge and expertise and do it myself, because there's no guarantee there. There's no guarantee here. So why not do something for myself, and maybe in the process get some financial freedom and help others as well. So that was kind of the catalyst for me setting up my own thing. It was literally a kick in the pants. So,
Wow. And do you think things were different for, say, our parents' generation? Because, they often maybe stuck to one or two jobs in a lifetime, and things are so different for us now.
yeah, they really are. So, my dad, to give you an example, he worked for the same company for his entire career.
Wow.
And yeah, he was, but that was the thing that happened. You just stayed with the same
Mm.
company, and you stayed with them for 30 years, and then, then you retired from that company. But nowadays it seems people just 3 4 years they move. And again, and also they move for better opportunities, I feel like. And people, like, I've been to interviews, when I was interviewing for new jobs and things, people would look at my CV and they wouldn't bat an eyelid at the movements I'd done, because I was always trying to better myself in my
Mm.
next job. And that was absolutely fine from their point of view. They had no issues with the amount of movement. So I think it's become normalized that people don't really stick around. And it's, in a way, it's a bit sad that companies don't really value longevity in their employees, and employees don't value longevity with a company, because it's really hard to hire people. It's really expensive to hire people. So why not just look after the people you have? And it might be a thing of trust as well. Just trust your
Mm.
employees. But yeah, I'm not in the corporate side anymore, so I don't know about that.
From your perspective, when you were moving from job to job, when you move from job to job every sort of, 2 to 4 years or
Mm,
whatever, what are the advantages versus the disadvantages? Because people will be listening and watching who themselves are thinking, should I stay or should I go? Like the song.
yeah.
And because there are actually solid advantages and disadvantages, and you having done, a lot of, sort of
Mm,
moving around in your
yeah.
career, you've
Yeah.
got that perfect vantage point to give some advice uh, to us.
Yeah, sure. So I think the advantage, what I've found anyway, is
Mm.
that anytime I've changed jobs, I've gone at a higher level at the next job and more pay. That was what I found. What I found was it was really hard to get a promotion and a pay rise at my current job, because always came back with, oh, budget freezes, hiring freezes. It was just always disadvantages to that, in terms of moving up in the company I was currently working with. And then I found, moving to a different company, I suddenly went at a higher level, more pay. That's exactly what I did my entire career. And um, and it seemed to work. I started off quite junior, very at quite a small pay and then at a small salary. And at the end of it, before I moved to setting up my own thing, I'd moved up quite a bit. And but then the disadvantages are that you have to go to a new place, learn a new corporate culture, meet, become part of a new team. For some people that can be quite challenging. It wasn't a challenge for me because of the amount I'd moved and my ability to just integrate anywhere. But I think for other people it could be a real challenge because you get comfortable somewhere, you understand the company, you understand their ways of working, you understand the
Mm.
processes, you understand the product, the services, the customers, and then suddenly to move to a different company, and they might have completely different processes, they might have a different political structure, and that all that stuff is really hard to navigate. But I think if you want to better your career and make more money, move.
Well, I think that's great advice, based upon solid experience. Now, going back to your business, it's been, it's been less than a year.
Yeah, yeah.
What are the best things about having your own business, and what are the things that are a little bit of a
Yes. So I think the best thing about the business is I can set my own working hours. I've got an 8-year-old son, so I can go and pick him up from school every day. I drop him off at school, which is lovely. I couldn't necessarily do that in my corporate career. They had
Mm,
these arbitrary, you have to be at in at 9 on the dot and leave at 6. I don't know why, but that's just what you had to do. It was literally like clock in and clock out. But yeah, that's a whole separate point. But yeah, it's also the freedom of setting my own hours, setting my own work pace.
mm,
And the other thing I love is meeting clients and prospects and engaging with them, really understanding their challenges, really understanding what they need to, they
mm.
need to grow, and then providing those sort of creative ideas for them. And my brain always works with creative ideas. I love coming up with creative ideas. Maybe I come up with too many, but those are some of the great things I love about it. Some of the hard things are that you then have to do everything yourself. So in my marketing career, my job would stop when I generated all the leads, and then I'll pass them on to a salesperson. Here I have to generate the leads and then be the salesperson as well, sort out my finances and my budget, and taxes and all this VAT returns and all this stuff. So I now have to wear multiple different hats, whereas before my corporate career is just one hat and that was it. And so yeah, that's what I'm finding is a real learning curve for me in that side of things. Where actually running a business, just haven't run a business before, so there are challenges to that, but fun challenges.
And probably in a way, things are a lot easier now because you've got, LLMs like ChatGPT,
Yes.
Perplexity. I remember when, back in the day, when I set up a business, we had to buy these law packs, to get contracts because we couldn't afford to have a law firm, and they'd come
Yep.
in a
Yep.
CD-ROM, and, and
Yeah.
now just with a touch of a button, you could just, do your contracts, and, and so little things like that, I think in a way makes it easy. We've got a lovely comment I wanted to show you, as
Oh,
I'd love to get your response. So
sure.
we've got it from our friend Dinesh. And he said, I've championed my daughter to start her own business young for this exact reason. In a
Mm.
world where careers are constantly shifting, I want her to be in control of her own destiny rather than following the moving career paths of the new world. What a great dad.
That's
What a,
lovely.
and
Dinesh,
you're
I,
a
I
dad
applaud
as
you.
well.
Yeah, I applaud that. It's lovely. But I was gonna say maybe a piece of advice for your daughter would be that I read this great thing somewhere where somebody said treating running a business is similar to like doing a corporate career. You're not great in the first couple of years, right? You're learning how to run a business, you're learning to do business, and is exactly the same as your first couple of years in a corporate career, where you're learning how to work, how to deal with like people, how to basically do a job. You're learning how to do a job, whereas the first couple of years you're learning how to do business. And so I think, and also failure, I think failure is part of life. And so if your daughter can learn that at a young age, if she fails a couple of times, that's okay. Her next business might make her millions, and the first one might not be right, but you learn, right? You learn and then you move on. So I think that's a great thing to do for your kids. So good on you, Dinesh.
I love that. Now we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to pick your brain, as because 18 years you've got
Mm.
experience in marketing. What have you learned that you could succinctly share with us about what works in marketing, for people who are interested in learning more about marketing, what's the wisdom that you can share with the rest of us? Because some of us are
Sure.
PR, some of us are journalists, some of us
Yeah.
don't know the world of marketing. So yeah, educate
Um,
us.
so, oh yeah, no pressure. But so, I was just, yeah, I was thinking a lot of time. It's like I was talking before. It's whatever you're doing. It's to find that USP. Like there's always a USP. Something will make your business or your role, even if in a corporate setting, if you're doing a role, make it be different, right? Make yourself different so you stand out, and the people remember you, and they then go, oh, next time it comes to promotion or pay rise, if that's a thing, they'll remember you because they're like, oh, that person really interesting, they had that really great idea, they did that. You just stand out. Same thing I say in business. The fundamental is to stand out, be memorable, have your customers remember you, because a lot of time in business, in marketing, people think it's, oh, I'm gonna put myself out there. I'm gonna do, for example, I'm gonna do advertising on Facebook. Oh, the leads are gonna pour in, the deals are gonna pour in like the month after I do that. A lot of time people aren't ready to buy. They may see you, they may look at your ad or your business, and then they might not be ready to buy now, but 6 months later they'll go, oh, now I'm ready to buy, and they remember that ad or something you did or your business, and they'll go, oh, now I need you. So to me, it's about standing out, it's about being different. And then obviously you have all the fundamentals of marketing, but I think the basis is to be different and stand out and be memorable. And there are multiple different ways to do that. There's small ways to do that, there are big ways to do that. If you can't afford massive ways to do that, stand out in your story, right? Tell a really good story, tell a story that makes you seem different, just makes you stand out a bit. But yeah, it always, and another fundamental is know who your target audience is. So basically what you're selling, who are you selling it to, and where are they? So for example, if you sell to 50-year-old to 7-year-old women, that's your target audience. And then you're trying to you start advertising on TikTok, that they may not be on that platform, right? They may, but they may not be. So maybe find the platform that they're at, find out where they consume content or things, and then advertise there. So a lot of people get that wrong. They just see, oh, the shiny new thing, I'm going to go and advertise on that, without thinking, yeah, your audience isn't even on there. So a lot of work even happens before the marketing even starts, to define your product, what makes you different, what makes you memorable, your story, your brand, and then your audience, who your audience is, and then where they are, where they hang out. So
I love that. I love that. Now, as just last question, people want to know more about the marketing services of MGHL, or they want to follow you for insights. What's the best way? Is it website? Is it social media platforms? All of the above?
yeah, so I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Maybe we can put the link somewhere. But yeah, it's just Az Ahmed on LinkedIn. I've got a website as well, mghlmarketing.co.uk. But yeah, I'd love to be more present with people, and just a lot of time it's just, yeah, that promotion of helping people and businesses be more than what they think they can be, and just showing them how to.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for your time today,
Right. Thank you
as
very much
we
for having me.
truly appreciate you. And thank you for all those who commented, and
Yeah.
we wish you all the best. Happy Wednesday, everyone. All the
Thank
best.
you. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.